Hi, and welcome to the Invigor Medical Podcast, where we're going to walk with you on your journey toward optimal health, performance, and well-being. My name is Natalie.
And I'm Derek.
And we're going to be your hosts on this journey. In each episode, we share insights from top professionals in physical, mental, and emotional health. With that said, let's dive into today's podcast. Okay, today we are so excited to host Kim Shapira, who is a celebrated celebrity dietitian and author of This Is What You're Really Hungry For. We're so excited for you to join us as we're diving into the transformative world of nutrition and health with Kim's expert insights. Kim, welcome to the Invigor Medical Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited too. And my cheeks already hurt from laughing. I love pre-recording conversations. They really set the tone for the way the whole thing is going to go. For example, we turned celebrity into celebrated in our intro on accident and decided to just leave it in instead of just editing it. She's not just a celebrity dietitian, folks. She is a celebrated celebrity dietitian, and we are so lucky to have you here with us today, Kim.
Now I feel like I need to give a speech and accept the award.
The award goes to not me for pre-production things. I was messing up on those, but that's okay. Okay, so
we really should have a blooper reel. I feel like that'd be pretty fun.
A blooper reel?
Yeah.
100%. There's so many different things that we should do. I want to do a edited together clip of every single time you've said Huberman.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We make a joke, Kim, just so you can be up to speed. Most of our listeners, anybody who's listening for any length of time knows that it's I have almost a clock started for how long it will take for Derek to mention Andrew Huberman. Because he's
that's
such a
funny.
big
Okay, let's start the clock.
I know, right? Yeah. And so that's a joke. So I just want there to be a reel on Instagram that's
Huberman,
and it's just because anyway.
It'd be pretty funny.
We'll have to work on those.
Yeah, that needs to get done.
Yeah, now
that needs to happen.
Our producer is listening in the booth back there. So Evan, start taking notes.
That's right.
Yeah, and my cheeks also hurt from smiling because it's so funny. You guys are so funny. Okay, I'm here. I'm present.
We don't really care about being smart. We just care about being funny.
That's right.
That's a joke. Anyway, let's talk about you, Kim.
Although I do feel like it'll be more effective if you're funny and lighthearted because you are talking about very serious stuff, you know?
100%.
That's for sure.
It's stuff that can get a little monotonous and possibly boring. And especially these are conversations that we've been having for generations to one degree or another. And so people get tired of hearing it. And I think everybody kind of it's probably already enough of an internal dialogue in most of our heads about how to eat healthy and take care of ourselves and lose weight and be at optimal health, right? And so you're already tired of the inner voice that critiques you. And now you have to get on and listen to somebody else talk about it, even though you know you should and you need to learn and expand your mind in this way. So, man, let's have some fun with it. And I'm so glad you're on board with that, Kim. So let's dive in and tell us about you. I mean, we want to hear about all your knowledge and expertise, but let's also get a little peek into who Kim Shapira is and how she got here today.
Okay, but before that, now I feel like I have to just talk about all the ways in which somebody could be triggered just from hearing that we're going to be talking about diet, nutrition, weight loss, diet culture, all the yo-yo, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. And the point is at this point, whoever's listening should take a deep breath and get out of the temper tantrum and be ready to open their mind to a whole new experience because I feel like I have the answers to solving everyone's problems. So there's that.
She is your guru.
Yeah, I'm here and I'm ready. I've been in private practice for 27 years, which means I've seen a lot of people on a regular basis. And I will tell you my story a little bit because I think it's important to know why I got into this. I would say that I was a sick kid and I'm 50 now. And when I was 12, I got sick.
First of all, you do not look 50 now. For anybody that's listening, I would, when you said 27 years, I'm she became a doctor at 13. Let's carry the two. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah.
So I got sick in 1986, and as I was driving to UCLA to see my specialist, I must have been crying in the car. And I would say that I was a very sensitive 12-year-old. And my mom said to me, "Don't cry. We'll go shopping after the doctor appointment." And I had 4 male doctor appointments. Again, I was a shy 12-year-old with 4 male doctors, and they were just big men. And what she did was give me a gift of having the ability to put my mind anywhere but in the moment I was in. And so every time I would go to the doctor, which would be every Wednesday for about 4 years, I would think about what I was going to buy after the doctor appointment. So as you can imagine, a very large shopping addiction ensued. And somebody told me in high school that food could make you sick or healthy. And I latched onto that very quickly. And I wanted to be healthy, and I wanted to help people because I had been such a sick kid. And I decided food was going to be the answer. And I went to graduate school. I wasn't that passionate about food so much as why people were afraid of fat, because it was the Snackwell era.
Right.
And what could be in fat that would be so scary to people? I didn't understand it. I didn't have an issue with food, so to speak.
Sure.
And I got out of graduate school, and I hung up a shingle and started a practice. And my first client was a therapist. And I say this because she should have been smarter than me. And I put her on a diet, and she lost 30 pounds. And I was really proud of myself. And then she said, I'm going to gain the weight back because my husband wants to be intimate with me all the time. And I was molested as a child.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
And I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm doing because I can't get her to eat kale when she really wants to eat something else. And so as I started kind of doing a deep dive, I started recognizing my clients eat the same way that I shop. And so that to me was like the most profound moment for me. And at that point, I was able to change from putting people on diets to incorporating what I call my 6 simple rules, which simply became, I know that I can't stop thinking about this, purse over at Gucci that I can't afford, but what happens if I put it on hold? If I can get curious in that moment, what happens to me physiologically? Will I survive this moment? Right? And so that basically opened the door for what I call the 6 simple rules.
Wow. That's a cool story.
Yeah, and I changed, because I started stop focusing on people losing weight and started focusing on how to keep the weight off they lost.
Yeah.
So many things.
To nerd out a little bit specifically about the word diet. So I'm a nerd in many ways, but one of the things that I really love is like breaking down words and what they actually mean and what is the root of it, because really understanding that can really inform language and how you communicate. So I think that the word diet has been, what is the word I'm looking for? Misappropriated. Is that correct?
Hell, almost demonized.
Yeah,
I hate it.
yeah.
I hate using it. Like I want to find a better word so often, but then it is the word, but it's just been so
twisted in so many ways.
When
really at its root, I think it's Greek. The where it originates from is the Greek word is dieta, and that literally means like a way of life, right? And to me, that seems so holistic, so inclusive of like this is just something that you are beginning to adopt, and it's like this is what what you eat is just part of your life. And it sounds like that's kind of what these 6 rules that you're talking about kind of entail. So maybe let's dive into those. What are the 6 rules that are a big part of your program?
And by the way, chapter 1 of my book is on the word diet, the word fat, and the word calories.
Oh, very
right?
cool.
Because I think like you can't even do the 6 simple rules until you know where your mind is.
Yeah.
And if your mind is not in this moment, then you really don't know how you feel or what you need. And so I think you're right on that diet means the way that I eat, my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be sensationalized or a bad word. It's, we all have a diet. And so I think it's really important to, when you do become triggered, to practice bringing your mind back to this moment. It's kind of like going to the gym for your mind. You have very weak muscles. And it's important to I would say, ask yourself where your mind is all the time.
Yeah.
So for instance, you can say, where is my body? And then we would answer, it's right here. It's like mine's in Pacific, Standard Time. It's right here in this room. And then you can say, where is your mind? And each one of us can track our minds. And some of us are going to think our mind is on dinner next Thursday, or what we had yesterday, or a conversation we had about finances with our partner, right? If our mind is not actually in this moment, we shouldn't be moving forward in anything.
Yeah, I remember. I wish we could like have a revolution around the way that we use the word diet, or not the way we use it, but the way we think and feel about it. Because I started noticing years ago how I felt when I said it, and I hated it. So I started saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm on a new eating plan," because like that's really what I was doing is I was changing up the way I was eating, right? But I just and diet, you know, like you said, the definition works, but I didn't like the way it made me feel. I didn't like the way people responded to it when I said it, and I was so fed up with like diet culture
And fad
I hated
diets.
even that terminology.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm just like, it's an eating plan. That's how I said it for a while now. But you know
Why
what?
is it anyone's business? Like, you didn't
Right.
ask me like if I have like 800 count sheets. Like, why do you have to talk about like the type of eater I am?
Right.
Like, I am curious. Like, when did that become everyone's personal business?
Right.
You know, to touch on that, like it seems like in general, you talk about any kind of diet online on the internet, and it's such a barbed wire topic.
Right.
It's like you have carnivores, and you have the vegans, and you have the vegetarians, and you have the ketos and the paleos, and they're all just like at each other's throats
Which is the
constantly.
best way.
Well,
Mine
and
is best.
and it's like, to me, it's so. You know, like at least all the research that I've done on it, it's counterintuitive because it's just like each person is different, and so really what it boils down to is the thing that's best for you is the thing that's best for you. It's not going to be the thing that's best
Yeah.
for, Joe
Yeah.
or Kelly or whoever, whoever's down the street from
Right.
you.
Let's delve into the 6 rules that you've discussed. Let's like give people actionable items here.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so rule number 1 is to eat when you're physically hungry, to take your normal portion, cut it in half, and wait 15 minutes to see if you need more food.
Like after
So
you're
this
done
is a
eating
lot.
that half.
So, yeah, it's a lot of information. So, like, let's
Okay.
slow it down.
Break it down.
Most people eat because of the time of day or because they're in a lunch meeting, not because they're physically hungry. And I want everybody to pay attention to their actual appetite because it's all about your metabolism, right?
Okay.
So we should be hungry every 3.5 hours, 2.5 to 3.5 hours. This is a good sign. If you aren't hungry in 3.5 hours, you ate more than you needed in your last meal. And if you're hungry sooner than 2.5 hours, you didn't eat enough. So this is a really good way to gauge it. And I want to start by saying nobody wakes up in the morning and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to pee 6 times today and I need to know where the toilets are. We all kind of trust we'll find the bathroom when
Right.
we need it, and we leave the house in peace. And we have to remember that food is everywhere and we're okay. And it doesn't have to be a plan always.
Okay.
So you eat when you're hungry. You take your normal portion, not the portion the chef prepared for you, not the portion that's on the label.
Okay.
The portion that you normally eat, you cut it in half.
Okay.
You put half on hold. And the first bite you take is the count of the 15 minutes.
Okay.
And the reason we wait 15 minutes is because that's how long it takes for leptin to tell our brains that we've had enough food.
I gotcha.
And so every human has the ability to know when they're satisfied. They just have to be mindful and in the moment and know what they're feeling.
Awesome. Can we dive in just a little bit about leptin and what that is and how it works exactly?
Yeah. So our body is regulated through neurotransmitters and hormones, and we have one hormone called ghrelin that tells us when we're hungry and one that tells us we're satisfied. And so leptin is the hormone that is telling us that we are satisfied for now. And so like when you look at these semaglutides or, weight related drugs, they're actually working on that leptin piece. So they're actually getting you to be full faster. And so that's kind of like the exact same thing that happens naturally with us in about a 15-minute window. And sometimes at 15 minutes, we need more food, and sometimes we don't. But we have to be mindful to know what we're feeling.
Yeah.
And if
Did that answer?
Yeah, I definitely. I was gonna say, whenever I hear the word ghrelin, I just think of the word gremlin.
I do too.
It's like these little
Yeah.
goblins in
Like,
your
"Hey,
stomach that are like, give me more food.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, and the thing is people fear food in a way that, like, I think it's fuel for our body. And
Yeah.
like, I get in trouble for saying that because people want to say it's pleasure or it's fun or it's entertainment. And it's 100% not any of those. And people forget they live inside of their bodies. I had this client the other day say to me, I'm trapped in my body. And I'm like, you really are. You should live there and like be happy to be there and like listen to what it's communicating to you. It's okay to be hungry.
Right.
It's not scary.
Right.
But it becomes scary when you ignore it because your survival is at risk.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to get more and more annoying, and that's the gremlin we're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But in general, our stomach, the lining of our stomach, when it gets a little low in food, ghrelin gets released.
The gremlins get released.
The lower, the lower gets a little gremlin. Yeah, be careful.
Oh, that was good. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then when food gets to a certain level in your stomach, leptin is released and you're told it's satisfying. So it's important to wait that 15 minutes to see if you need more or less.
Now here's a question for you, because I'm wondering, and because you did bring up semaglutide, which is something we talk about here here on the Invigor Medical Podcast, and I know especially for really obese people, it can be a very helpful tool, and not just for that. And I don't want to spend too much time, but my thought as I was thinking that is, for someone who has not been in touch with their satiety cues for a very long time. You know, in your experience, like how much time does it typically take, you know, practicing that 15 minutes wait for them to actually be aware of a sense of fullness, you know?
It's a great question, and deeply loaded, especially if you're talking about semaglutides, which we can talk about in a minute. But in general, your body takes 3 days to recover from everything.
Wow.
So if you overeat salt or you overeat any other food, it's going to take 3 days to recover from it. I would, and it's very important to recognize where your body fat is. So if you have a high body fat, that means you have a slow metabolism. You're not going to be as hungry as somebody who has a faster metabolism, who has who has less body fat. So that's what I mean. It's heavily loaded. You know when you have to pee, right?
Right.
And if you stopped having to pee, you'd run to the doctor. Hunger is like very important and tells us that our body is functioning properly. If we stop getting hungry, this is a sign that something is off.
Yeah.
And so if you were just to take your normal portion and cut it in half, ideally you would feel hungry sooner than not. But there's so much fear. And again, remember, you get triggered so easily by the word hunger or diet or restriction. And this is not a restriction. You have permission to eat when you're hungry. All I'm asking is you start with half. But there is that total FOMO that comes in at start with half. Like, what happens to the other half? What if I starve to death? What if I miss out on the warm food?
Right.
Are you kidding me? Like, you've had 21 meals this week. Historically, for your entire life, you've had 21 meals, which tells me you're going to eat again. And food is on every corner.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is our mind needs to know we're safe at all times. Just like we don't worry about finding toilets, we don't tell our heart to beat, our lungs to breathe. We don't tell our mind to think. It does it to help us survive every single moment in the most pleasurable way. And if we're in any discomfort, food is obviously more fun.
Yeah.
And so it's up for us to say to our mind, it's okay that I'm not comfortable right now. I don't need food. I'm going to have it when I'm hungry.
That's really interesting.
Right?
Well, I'm thinking about like that fear, like you said, like take your half and like just see how you feel. And if the fear is like, well, what if I'm hungry again in an hour? And what I'm hearing from you is like, well, then you would eat and you would just take half of what you would normally eat. Like, what do you feel? What's the amount that you want right now that you normally have, and cut it in half? What if I'm hungry an hour again?
Yeah.
Then you would eat, is what I'm hearing from you. It's kind of like what you said to your daughter. And she's like, I want to be a vegetarian. She's like, well, what if you just had some steak sometimes? Like, what if it wasn't shackles?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we're so short, like we have short-term memories. None of us can remember what we ate yesterday, and yet we're so hyper-focused on what to do right now in this moment, and we need to remember that we're safe. You know, and when the world is scary or when we're in chronic stress, we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And this is like probably the number one cause of every disease is chronic stress. And that means like, I mean, how can I say this? Like what happens in every human person is we develop between 3 and 5 emotional triggers in the first 6 years of our life. When we go through something traumatizing, we develop another trigger. And then our job is to master these triggers, to become detached and to master them. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have anything traumatic happen to us again, right? We couldn't have predicted 9/11. We couldn't have predicted COVID. We couldn't have predicted lots of things, and it's going to happen. We can't prevent it, but we can really practice training our mind to be here, even if it's uncomfortable. And to also remember the food is right there. I can have it.
Yeah. That's such a powerful.
Sorry, Doug,
that's
I keep
such,
interrupting you.
Oh no,
No,
sorry,
not
I
at
didn't mean
all.
to interrupt you. I think that's such a powerful point, and an example from my life kind of popped up. There's been periods of time where I've practiced intermittent fasting, right, and done various things, and I've noticed that, and I think that it's important to be able to recognize behaviors behind eating, right? Because you don't want to be like an emotional eater, and where anytime anything terrible happens, you immediately go to for chocolate or a bag of Lay's or whatever it is. But when I would be fasting, I would notice that obviously you're not eating food, so the amount of your fight or flight or the sympathetic nervous system is going to be more attuned, which leads to more focus, which is great. But I would notice that when I would experience something really stressful, like if I had a really hard day at work or if I had some sort of relationship problem, that I would almost default to go to, from a fasting state, that I'd almost default and say, forget this fasting thing. I'm gonna eat. And so I think it's such a powerful tool to be able to recognize that food relates directly to our state of mind. It relates directly to the parasympathetic and sympathetic systems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we can remember that food is fuel.
Yeah.
In our rational mind, we all know it's fuel, right? Whatever I'm eating is fueling every one of my cells in my body. Then it helps us recognize if I think food is anything other than fuel, it means I'm not okay. And it's okay that I'm not okay. This is a moment for me to say to myself, how can I get okay? But first I have to accept I'm not okay. And it could be that I missed a deadline, because what makes us well is related to, like you said, relationships, career, finances, adventure, friendships, our physical body. There are lots of little things, like about 7 or 8 things that make us well. And when we're disconnected or jarred in any one of them, we flip our lid and we become irrational. We get into the throes of a temper tantrum. And we can't really have a rational conversation in the throes of a temper tantrum. We have to calm down, which has to happen through deep breathing. And then once we're there, we can accept, here I am. I don't like it. I don't like that I'm in a fight here, or that I missed a deadline here, or that the world feels stressful. But I'm here. And in this exact moment, I'm safe. And that is what your mind needs to know at all times. And it's kind of funny. I was on the phone with my mom probably 20 years ago, and I said I had to hang up on her because there was a sale at Bloomingdale's and I needed to get something. And she said, Kim, Bloomingdale's has a sale every day. And I said, no way, that can't be true. And then she planted a seed. I had to get curious. And she was right. Bloomingdale's actually has a sale every day. And when I knew I was safe, I didn't have to rush off and get it. And when I can recognize that food is everywhere and I'm not starving to death and I can get it when I need it, I can even bring it with me. I can have it on the desk next to me. When I know I'm safe, my mind stops making, irrational ideas. And then I can recognize my chest is tight. My neck hurts. This is why I'm thinking food is a good idea, not because I'm hungry and my cells need fuel. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to see a chiropractor, an acupuncturist. I need to practice some box breathing. I need to go for a walk. I need to listen to some high vibration music, right? Now I can really help myself. If my mom had said to me when I was 12, this is scary, Kim. Going to the doctors is scary and this is hard, but you're going to be okay. Might have been different for me had she not said, we'll go shopping after. Right?
Okay.
And every one of us, go on.
Oh, sorry. No, go for it. I'll let you finish your thought.
It's nothing. Your turn.
I was just going to say, here's the Huberman mention.
There it is.
So he
that
just
is maybe the longest ever.
he just dropped an episode today, which was about parenting, and I don't remember the guest he had brought on, but the guest was saying that when something hard happens to your child, one of the best things to say to them is, I believe you. And that in a
my
way
favorite.
that's better than saying like, I hear you, or, like, yeah, that's hard, but really just saying, I believe you, because it's such an open-ended, open-ended statement of being able to say like, I acknowledge that this is who you are and this is what you're feeling, but it doesn't like necessarily kowtow to say, and so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for you. It allows you to take the next step and say, okay, well, what can we do to solve this problem?
Yeah. I mean, I love that. And by the way, my mom is my best friend.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so grateful for all my experiences, but like, it's just interesting when you look back and where seeds get planted. Yeah.
Well, we have as parents, we're all going
to.
to fail at some level, right? And I know, being a mom now gives me a lot of grace for my mom to be able to go and, to see all the ways that she failed and to be like, okay, I forgive you. And there's still so much that was good there. And it's just, because now I'm like, I really hope to God my kids are going to be able to do that with me. Because at the end of the every day, I'm like going through the list of like all the ways that I messed up, and so wanting them to.
That's the reality. Like I said, 3 to 5 emotional triggers in the first 6 years of your life, even in a very loving home. So it doesn't matter. And we all, we parented through COVID. I mean, that was not easy. We were not okay.
Gosh, I was not
You know
okay.
what I
mean?
Not even close.
Right.
Ugh.
Right. So, we all did the best we could, and for sure our kids are going to have stuff to work on. So there's that. Yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying today's podcast. I just wanted to take a quick break because if you're listening, you probably know what we do here at Invigor Medical Podcast, but maybe not what we do at invigormedical.com. So let me introduce us. At Invigor, we provide prescription strength treatments and peptides for weight loss, sexual health, and lifestyle optimization. Every treatment plan is carefully prescribed by licensed doctors and sourced from legitimate pharmacies. You don't ever need to buy questionable research chemicals again. And bonus, as a podcast listener, you get a 10% discount on your first treatment plan with code podcast10 at invigormedical.com. Now, let's get back to today's episode.
I want to keep going on to the 6 simple rules, and I don't want to get too off topic because I feel like this is something we could go down a really big rabbit trail on, but I do want to touch really briefly. We're like the kings and queens of rabbit trails here today, because Derek brought it up, and you're mentioning, like every 2 to 3 hours you should be hungry. Can you touch on intermittent fasting? Because that's something that we've talked about a lot here, and so I'm curious what your thoughts are and how that could kind of play into this first rule that you're going over.
Yeah, we should actually talk about intermittent fasting around sleep, which is rule number 6. But let's touch on it because if you look at the word diet, intermittent fast is a diet. Okay, so this is where it gets sensationalized and overblown.
Okay.
We don't necessarily want to fast. We don't even want to follow a fat diet. We don't want to go down the Atkins or the Zone or high carb, low protein, high fat. We want to have something called moderation, right? We want to have a diet that is fueling our body when we're hungry. So if we do an intermittent fasting, we're actually just jumping right back into the next and best, greatest fad diet. Ideally, our body should be hungry and it should be satisfied and it should be hungry often. We listen to our body's chemical reactions and that's how it communicates with us. Like I said earlier, if you overeat, you're basically telling your body, prepare for a war, right? If you undereat, you're basically telling your body, you're in a war. So now we need to conserve. We want our body to not be stressed.
Yeah.
Our body reacts to internal and external stress in under 10 seconds, tipping off the hippocampus, the pituitary, and the adrenal glands, putting us into 19 different physiological states so we can run from the lion that just came into the room. And then we're not recovering.
Right.
If we are fasting, we are restricting.
Okay.
And that restriction tells our body we're not safe. And so then it tends to overeat, especially if you're not in a good place where you're feeling like, emotionally well. So ideally, we should not be eating after dinner. We should have between a 3 to 6 hour space between our last meal and the time that we're laying our bodies down.
Okay.
So this helps our body digest and then rest. And rest is meant to basically vacuum every single one of our cells and reduce inflammation. And we should wake up in the morning at a reasonable time after we've slept well through the night, hungry. When we wake up hungry, we're ready to eat every 2 or 3 days. So I think that between dinner and breakfast, we're already having the only fast we need.
Okay.
And I can't tell you how many people I know who say like, oh, I'm getting close to the time that I can't eat anymore. So the only thing here is, something at Coffee Bean. I'm just going to grab a muffin and like a sandwich.
Right. Just eating whatever within the time window.
What are you
No.
saying to me? Like, if food is fuel, it's not fuel. It's just based on a body clock. You're changing your circadian rhythms. You're just working on like these hours rather than what your body needs. There's a lot of problems here.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, it sounds to me like, because I've done a variety of intermittent fasting over the years. I kind of naturally, I didn't actually mean to do it. I just found myself not really being hungry even. And so I was just like, oh, well, this is easy and it's cool. I can do that. But really the biggest thing, and what I heard from you and what I've always thought is the biggest deal is that break between dinner and breakfast and like giving kind of that digestive reset period of time.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, so it's
100%,
interesting.
yes.
So thank you for taking the time to just touch on that, because we've talked about fasting in different varying degrees on the podcast, and I think it's always important to have different ideas and philosophy surrounding it expressed. So thank you for taking the time to express that. And let's move on to numero dos of the 6 rules.
Rule number 2 is to eat what you love and to make sure the food loves you back. So
I like
obviously
that
we
last
talked a lot
part.
about emotional triggers.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? I mean, what are you thinking when you hear it?
I'm thinking about the things that I eat that do not love me back, that make me feel like dog poop afterwards. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about whenever I have too much non-cultured dairy. I'm thinking about if I have too much sugar. I'm thinking about occasionally some gluten. Weirdly enough, I have a sensitivity to vanilla. That I typically get eczema once I've had vanilla. I know, isn't that an odd one?
Very
and I
common.
forget about it because I don't have much of a sweet tooth, so I don't have like a lot of baked goods or whatever. And so like I accidentally had vanilla like 3 times in 1 week because I got a cast iron pan from my mom for Christmas, and I was like, oh my God,
exciting.
Dutch babies, and my kids love the Dutch baby pancakes, and so I like made 3 in 1 week, and at the end of the week I was like, why do I have so much eczema? And it's because I put vanilla in every single one of those Dutch babies. So, but that's what's going through my mind whenever I think about let the food love you back, is I immediately thought of the things that didn't love me back. And so now.
I mean, I love what you just said, but I will say the majority of people, and I'm curious, Derek, what you thought, but because I don't want to run out of time, like if you heard eat what you love or you heard but make sure it loves you back.
I was going to say, I hear both. And, like for me, one of my big passions is cooking. I love cooking. I love like branching into different culinary experiences and trying to kind of explore a lot of things that way. So that definitely resonates with me on a deep level. Love me back. That the thing that popped into my mind is like, if you have specific goals, right? So for people that are trying to build muscle, people that are trying to lose weight, people that are trying to consume the number of calories that are needed for like long endurance training, those types of things. Like to me, that's when the food loves you back. It's like you're going for a specific goal and it's assisting you with that goal. Or even if it's overall health, right?
That's a good way to think about it.
I think that's kind of the thought that popped in my head.
I think you are both on the exact same page as me, and a lot of people only hear eat what you love, and then there's that that intermittent fast, like, oh, you I'm going to lose weight just eating cake and ice cream, and I'm like, wait, but I said eat when you're hungry and start with half.
Yeah.
So if you eat what you love, are you hungry for ice cream or are you just craving it?
Right.
Right. And so it's important to also recognize there's food allergies, there's food sensitivities, and there's food intolerances. The only one that is permanent is a food allergy, right? That doesn't go away and it can get worse as you get older. But if you're sensitive to foods like vanilla or something, then you're actually getting an opportunity to say, somewhere in my gut needs a little bit of support. And we can do that by adding, fruits and vegetables, whole grains that you can tolerate, fermented foods, probiotics, and omega-3s. But I never gave permission to eat foods when you're not hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But we really do have to work on this is healthy, this is unhealthy, this is good, bad, I should, I shouldn't, and we have to get rid of those and just call food food.
Yes, thank you. I love that. Let's not make food polarizing. It's not good or bad. It's just food.
Yeah.
It's like feelings. Same. Feelings aren't good or bad. They're feelings. You're supposed to feel them. Yeah.
Yep.
Not categorize.
Yeah.
You know. So, amen, sister. You're preaching.
I will say though, so this is to quote from Michael Pollan's book In Defense of Food, which I absolutely love all of Michael Pollan's work. I don't know if you've ever read it,
I haven't.
And one of the things he talks about is the difference between food and food substitutes. That a lot of the food that we see in the grocery store isn't actually food. It's like food substitutes. He's the guy that kind of came up with the rule of like, if your great grandparent wouldn't recognize it, then it's not like real food. I don't, it's an interesting take on it, but he's very much for whole foods. If meat, vegetables, things along those lines. So
yeah, I think I also in agreement with all of that. But the truth is, when you're talking to people and trying to help them heal their relationship with food, you have to just call food food, and then you have to recognize, but you have eczema or you're having gas. What about the diarrhea you had or the headache? Like, what do you think that could be caused by? And what if we tried an apple instead of applesauce, or something silly like that, right? Like, what if we tried the whole food? How would we be affected? Yeah. But there's a lot of diet culture and fear around food. And what I've learned is they're going to eat the stuff your grandparents aren't going to recognize, even though they don't think it's food or healthy.
Right.
And then they're going to be full of shame. And chronic stress is related to every single disease.
Yeah.
We got to deal with the stress. We got to deal with the way people think so we can open their minds.
To touch on that too. So there's again, to mention an episode of Huberman, he talked about this conversation. I think it was just around mindsets. I think it was Kim Shapira. No, that's you.
That's you.
No, who was it? It was another. I think
Kim?
it was another Kim. Wendy Suzuki. That's what it was. I think it was Wendy Suzuki who was talking about mindsets and things along those lines. And she was saying that the mindset that you have towards your food, of like, if you can not lie to yourself, but like say, you think cake is decadent, and so like you want it. But if you can kind of not convince yourself, but say like hummus is like this really yummy, really decadent thing that's also can be very healthy for you. That's all of a sudden you're recognizing, oh, I love this food, and this food then loves me back. Kind of being able to enter and think about food in that kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing. I come from a place of let's learn to coexist with food. And, like I want to be in Aruba, but I'm not currently there. And I could also know that I could get there at some point.
Yeah. But
I can accept I'm here right now. And so it's like if I'm thinking about cake all day long, I need something very actionable to get me back into this moment and to recognize that cake is an anytime food, but just not a right now food.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, like I won't have cake at 1:00 in the afternoon because I won't feel good for the rest of the day. And then if it turns out later, I'm still thinking about cake, I have to question whether or not I'm hungry or not. If it's just because my mind is telling me cake is a good idea, I can have a conversation with my mind and tell my mind, that must mean that something's going on with my body, or I'm having sugar cravings, but it has nothing to do with hunger.
Or you
So
just
I'll
literally
have to
watched a
tomorrow.
commercial or a photo. Like that's oftentimes what it is for me. I'm like not hungry at all, and then I'm like, there's somebody's eating a hot dog at a baseball park in a movie, and I'm like, oh my god, I need a hot dog like right now.
Right.
The thought is
Right.
introduced, and then the Ghrelin
But
is
that's
released,
not a
and the
real
gremlins say
thought.
hot dog, hot dog.
Right. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. Like to really be able to practice seeing your thoughts as trains, and your practice is staying on the platform and the trains just let them through. Right. I see the hot dog thought. Doesn't mean I need to have it right now. I can have a hot dog any day of the week.
Is
But
this
then when it comes to ordering food or getting food, I'm not having a hot dog.
right? Because you just mentioned how to the trick of like getting back to like right here, right now, and checking in, and like because that's a good point, and maybe you're addressing this more in next rule, but like determining, am I actually hungry? Like,
Yeah.
is it just an
Yeah.
intrusive
Okay,
thought?
so rule three, because
Okay.
now we only have a few minutes,
Okay.
so I'm going to race through them.
Yeah.
Rule 3, eat without distraction. So we tend to eat food, if it's in front of us, 30% more if it's just right in front of us than if it wasn't in front of us.
Okay.
So we should be not having food in front of us if we're not hungry. We tend to eat more when we're watching TV, reading a book, or distracted. I would highly recommend when you do eat, practice eating slowly. It's really important to smell your food, to get the saliva in your mouth, which has the enzymes to break down the food you're about to put into your body. I would practice smelling your food and chewing your food even longer than you think necessary, considering these are the only mechanical ways to break down our food. The rest in our stomach is totally different. And so we really need all the help we can get, and it will slow us down. So we eat because the food's in front of us. We eat because we're extremely emotionally distracted. I just, missed a deadline. I'm saying screw it right now, whatever the reason. I eat because I'm hungry, and I eat because of cravings. The only real reason a person should eat is because they're hungry in their stomach. And I would also say, with an asterisk, normal eating is sometimes having birthday cake on your birthday or a friend's birthday, but it's not doing it 2 days in a row. That's a habit.
Every night finishing the birthday cake until it's gone.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking about how, the idea of having family dinner like every night, and how it's been really kind of promoted as a social an emotional well-being practice.
Yeah.
Well, what you just described to me says that family dinner together also, this is what I'm thinking about when you're saying, don't eat in front of the TV or when you're reading or you're distracted. Because if I'm sitting with other people having food, I just experienced this last week. I ran into a friend at Chipotle and decided to sit down and have lunch with him. And normally when I take that Chipotle back to my desk and I'm working, like while I'm eating, I eat the whole thing and I'm stuffed. I sat there eating with him and I did not even eat half, because we talked and talked and talked. And that's what happens at dinner too, because we're sitting and we're talking and we're engaged. And so, boom, wow, who would have thought family dinner is actually good for your physical health as well as your mental and your emotional health?
Yeah, right on. Okay, rule number 4, 10,000 steps every day.
Ooh.
We don't move enough. Our body is meant to be fidgety and to run around and, grow old and be agile and still have muscle mass and balance and agility and all the things, so we can have independent lives. We're very sedentary. I get 10,000 steps every day, and I still sit for 7 hours straight.
Wow.
So we need to move as often as possible, for sure.
Yeah.
The average American gets about 3,000 steps. They're obese, and that is, of course, related to a shorter lifespan and a bunch of weight-related diseases. Ideally, you want 7,000 steps, but I always say 10 because I'm working on the maintenance.
Yeah.
How am I going to maintain this weight that I've lost?
Gotcha.
And so that kind of relates to this idea of NEAT, right? Non-exercise thermogenesis. I missed an E. What is it?
Don't look at me.
Non-exercise. I think that's it. Just
Active
non-exercise thermogenesis.
I'm
Anyways.
blanking right now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but basically, so NEAT is just like it's kind of like your basal metabolic rate. That's part of it, but that also includes everything that's on top of that. So like twitching your leg or like walking around and getting your
Walking with
10,000
your
steps. Yep, exactly. One of my favorite people on YouTube that's in the kind of the fitness and health space is a guy named Jeff Nippard, and he did a whole video talking about like, is obesity a choice? And he talked about a lot of really interesting things, and he talked about leptin and ghrelin, and how some people have naturally more amounts of ghrelin and less leptin, and that some people have naturally more non-exercise thermogenesis than others. And like I think they did a whole study where they took 100 people and they gave them all an excess of calories by like 1,000 calories, and some people only gained 2 pounds and some people gained like 20 pounds. And it's like, how is that even possible? But it's because
that I would look at their visceral fat, because that's not metabolically active at all, and that actually slows down your metabolism. So depending on how high your visceral fat, which is the fat that surrounds like your abdomen and your organs, it's like really slows down your metabolism.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So I'm curious about that.
I think that getting those steps and just becoming more active and being aware of like how active you are throughout the day, I think is an absolutely fantastic thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Nobody regrets moving.
Are we
right.
on to number 5?
Step 5.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And yeah. Number 5 is to get 8 cups of water every single day. I know there's like lots of confusion about how much water, but I think aiming for 8 cups is the magic number. I don't think it depends on how overweight you are. If you need to lose 20 pounds, you probably need 2 additional cups of water. If you are overly caffeinated, you probably need 2 additional cups of water for every cup of coffee. But in general, we can really dilute our vitamins and minerals, and we don't want to do that. So I would stick to 8 cups every single day. And this is how we detox every one of our cells. And when we're hydrated, we feel great. When we're even 1% dehydrated, we feel very fluish and can't think clearly. And okay, I'm going to run through the next one because I have to hang up on you guys.
Yep.
The last rule is to get 7 hours of sleep, and the average American gets 6.5 hours, and we really need between 7 and 9 hours. We Americans have problems falling asleep, staying asleep, and waking up unrested. And we really have to work on all these different areas of sleep. And eating close to bed actually causes us to wake in the middle of the night. It screws with our blood sugar. It also tells our body to wake up. And so I would highly suggest dimming the lights and allowing your body to release melatonin at its normal time. And it's kind of like when you have babies, you don't want to miss their sleep window. When melatonin is released and you feel a little drowsy, you do not want to miss this window. You want to put yourself right in bed.
I call it my sleep train.
That's right.
When my sleep train comes to the station, I got to get on the train or it's leaving the station.
That's right.
But I don't recommend melatonin supplements because it tells you your brain to stop making them. So you just really need to work on balancing your own circadian rhythms.
Yep.
And I'll have to come back and talk more about that.
Oh my
we'd
gosh.
love to.
Thank you
We'd
so
love to
much
have
for
you come back.
taking the time. We had such a blast, and I was not surprised that we went over and we're rushed now at the end. But thank you so much, Kim, for taking the time to talk with us today. It's been wonderful.
So much fun. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Invigor Medical Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, you can support us by liking and subscribing.
Your feedback matters, so feel free to share questions or future episode ideas in the comments section.
For more information about our prescription strength treatments for weight loss, ED, and overall wellness, all from qualified doctors and reputable pharmacies, visit us at invigormedical.com. And don't forget to use code podcast10 for a 10% discount on your first treatment plan. Until next time, stay well.